test-driven design in Java using JUnit and NetBeans IDE. We're going to create a project, download a sample project from the NetBeans SVN, which will give us the JUnit library. We're going to create test classes, create the test methods that demonstrate assertEquals, assertTrue, assertFalse. We're going to create tests with annotation attributes for timeout, expected, for example, IllegalArgumentException, ignore, and we're going to run the tests. Let's get started. Okay, so I have NetBeans IDE already installed. I'm going to create a new project. It's going to be a Java class library. I'm just going to call it Java TDD demo. And it's based on a tutorial I found on the NetBeans website to do with JUnit TDD. So here we go. Finish. Now we need the JUnit library, which I cannot see here. There are different ways of getting it. You could do add library like this, and it's here. But you may not have it. So another way of getting it, what we do is we go up to team, subversion, checkout, and we paste this address into the repository URL. Press next, finish, and OK. Checkout complete. Open project. I'm going to open JUnit sample sol. Open. And resolve problem. Resolve. Problem was resolved. Closed. Now this has test libraries in it. JUnit. And it also has two source packages, which I will use as part of this demo. So I'm just going to copy those and paste them over to my source packages folder on my Java TDD demo. Paste, just copy. We can look at those now, these two files here. Now to build the tests, we right click an individual file here and we go Tools, Create, Update Tests. This will create tests. I'll leave the default class name, test packages, and I'll use JUnit. I can use testng, but I'll use JUnit. I can deselect those two. I'll deselect all those for now, and we'll come back to those later. It's generated the file vectors test.java for me in test packages. It's generated that. It's generated this. If we look at more closely where this information's come from, it's actually come from the vectors Java file, the equal method and the scalar multiplication method. If we look at the test again, we can see that it's put the word test at the beginning of every method name and created a very simple default test for us. We will remove most of this code and write out tests individually for both. So for the first one we'll go to test scalar multiplication and write assert equals this is the expected result, and this is a simple test. So let's copy one across. Vectors.scalar multiplication, new int array, new int array. It's checking that the multiplication of these two arrays equals 0, and it's likely to be true. We know that. We're going to run a couple more, create a couple more, like that. For this one, I'll test for the value 39 here. 3 and a 4, a 5 and a 6, and here I'll test with the value -39. This will be a -3 and a 4, a -5 and a 6, and this one I'll test for 0, and this can be a 5, 9, -9 and 5. Yes, it's likely to be true. Now we'll look at the test-equal method and do something very similar. We will assert true this time, and Shift Alt F just to format that. The test we want to do on our vectors class still, we want to test that an int array equals an int array. That's one test. We'll create another test. This time we'll use 0, 0. Create another test. It'll be 0, 0, 0, 0. Another test will be numbers 5, 6, 7 and 5, 6, 7, and these are all likely to be true. Just going to format that. Do another test, assert false this time, and we want to check that these tests fail. Well, that is not equal to that, so it's likely to fail. And assert false is true, so that's what we're looking for. We want to know that that will break when we test it. Another one similar to above, 0, 0. Assert false, another thing that will assert false, that is going to assert false. That will all return true for asserting false. And we have several tests here. The array size is different. The numbers are different. It's good enough. Now we're going to create tests for the utils.java file. Tools. Create update tests. This time we'll select those because we'll see what they actually do. Okay. If I go over to my new file, utilstest.java, zoom in slightly, we can see that it's given us some extra annotations for before class, after class, before and after. I want to see when these methods get called, so I'll put in a console out for those. Setup class, tear down class, setup, tear down. Now once again we have some default test code that is created for us. We don't want most of that, so I'll delete all of that and create some quick tests. First we'll go to test concat words and just put that in there so I can see it as it progresses. And we want to do a simple assert equals, which we've seen already, that the value equals Sean was ear, with one of those. Sean was ear in one of those. utils dot concat words. There we go. We want to create a custom test, which we're going to name public void my custom test. I'll just print that out that we're actually inside it. Assert equals I'm just going to copy and paste this one here because it's just a custom test. We want it to be run. I can delete those, both of those, and we'll create 2 more custom tests. This one we'll use the timeout option. (1000 milliseconds), and if this test takes longer than 1000 milliseconds, it will fail. So public void test with timeout, and we have a little function here that will actually run, and it will take quite a long time to run and trigger this timeout. Start random. And let's just print out that value. Computing factorial of and only because the original tutorial has this bit, factorial of plus equals utils dot compute factorial of factorial of. Isn't that nice? That it wrote all that for me. Now we're going to test for the exception, or a test for the exception. Expected equals legal argument exception dot class. Public void check expected exception final int factorial of equals -5 And we just copy this line again. And we're just going to print out that we're actually in this section of code as well. I'm going to create another custom function. Public void, another custom test that throws exception print out when our custom test assert equals A, B, C, D, F. And this is the ignore. We have an error here, and that is because we need to import it. Import org.JUnit.ignore. There it is. We need that one. Now that should be good enough to start testing with. It's finished. I don't see any problems there. Everything's green. To test, we type run test Java TDD demo. Building finished, and here's our tests. Passed 71.43%. Here's our output. Actually, I'm going to make that a bit more clearer where which function we're which class we're actually in. Utils test. Utils test. Util test. And in that test, we're in vectors test. Now if I run that again, if I right click, I can run each individual test again, which I'll do. Utils test. We can see the progress here. That is setup class, tear down class. So we can see that we're in, it runs setup class first, and it runs tear down class at the end. And before it runs each test, it runs setup and tear down, setup and tear down. It's all there if we need it. I'm just going to comment it out. And run that again. Excellent. Test passed 80%. And it's skipped the ignore test. Let's unignore that test and test that again. Test passed 80. The test failed. Well, it was always going to fail because ABC is not equal to DEF. Let's have a look at that. Let's just make that true. Run that again. Test passed 100%. But that's not all our tests, because we've still got the test over here. On vectors test. 6 tests passed, 1 test failed. Vectors test failed. Scalar multiplication. Can double click that and actually have a look at the line here, minus 39. So minus 3 to minus 5. Wow, okay. Let's have a look. I'll save that, run that again. Failed. Expected minus 39, but I got a 9. Alright. Let's try that. Run again. Failed. Minus 39, 39. Alright. So we can see that our tests are all valid.